So another central theme to Inspector Calls is this division between the young and the old and the differences between them. So let's have a little look at what we might say in an essay about that. So just as normal, all the points hit any mark scheme is here, and I've colour coded it so you can see where we're picking up them big marks for our literature exam. So, as previously presented, differences between the young and the old. There's 2 points I want to be making. First of all, the older generation are too blinded by their past successes and their detachment from society to embrace the inspector's message. That's quite straightforward. A lot of people are going to say and understand and recognise that the old generation are not interested in what the inspector says. But where a lot of students go wrong is they've got this blasé, silly kind of approach to the young, saying, but the young really like the inspector and the young are going to be the future and the young are going to save the day. No, that's just not the case. That's just not what happens. The young, they do show a greater understanding of the inspector's message, but they lack the abilities to implement its socialist principles, and they don't have the power in their family to make their voices heard. So yes, they've got a greater tolerance for the inspector's message, but they do not have the abilities or the skills or the power to do anything about it. Precis is therefore showing that there is not going to be any change in the world unless the older generation change and therefore support the younger generation to make the difference that he's desperate to see in the world. So, 4 points I would want to make. First of all, I'm going to be talking about the young and how they're kept immature and naive, therefore they don't have the ability to impact this world. And this is clear through Sheila's use of mummy, which is talking to her mum. Then I'll be looking at the difference between the old and the young. You got the old who are so foolishly confident and they're blinded by their success, and that's through Mr. Berlin saying unsinkable, absolutely unsinkable. Whereas the young have got a more realistic optimism for life and understand that maybe it's not going to be quite as perfect as Mr. Berlin was just saying. And we've got Gerald saying, I hope I can make you as happy as you deserve to be. He does not have the same faith and conviction as Mr. Berlin. Then I'll be looking at how unready the young are to make a difference in the world. First of all, I'll be looking at Sheila. She understands the inspector's message, but she's too marginalised and too powerless to have any influence over her parents. And I've got Mother, I begged you and begged you to stop for that. And then I'll be looking at Eric, but particularly with regards to his personality and his attitude. He does not have the power in himself and is the attitude required to take responsibility and to make the difference. And we've got you killed them both, damn you to show that. So first of all, mummy. Not going to go into loads of layers in this one because it's one word and I've got bigger fish to fry later in my exam. So the young are kept immature and naive, and therefore they lack the ability to impact this world. Now we can't criticise Sheila for this. This is reflective of the 1912 middle class household. The young, especially the young women, are going to be trusting their parents, the management of the family reputation, and they are going to accept a curtailed and limited life until they're ready to be married and go and join another family. Now this shows the power and the authority that automatically seems to come with age. In 1912, the older you are, the more power you have. But if you're going to have such a blinded, blinkered vision like the Berlins do, that's extremely dangerous for the rest of society. Now, there's key here, before we start talking about how poor old Sheila is restricted and it's not fair on her, she's very happy with this situation. She's got a big fat ring on her finger, she's marrying Gerald, she's sitting there drinking port and champagne, she's calling her mother mummy, which is a big term of endearment. She's really comfortable with this limited, curtailed existence that she has. She's not picking any sort of fight or challenge to it until the inspector comes. So yes, there's divisions between the young and old, but at the outset, no one is complaining or upset about that in the Berling household. Right, then I'll be looking at the old, and we've got unsinkable, absolutely unsinkable. So there's a foolish confidence here, completely blinded by his success. He believes that he's going to be constantly and always be a forever success story. Now, here the old are symbolised by the Titanic. They're both at the top of their society. They're both considered untouchable within the social hierarchy that comes with age. However, both fall irrecoverably and embarrassingly. Now this is dramatic irony. We as the audience, we know the Titanic sinks, so this shows the foolish ignorance of the older generation. Now once I'd laid up all that about the older generation, I'd then switch to Gerald, who says, I hope I can make you as happy as you deserve to be. Now here, he lacks the same conviction and the faith in the future as Mr. Berling had, because he refers to it just as a hope. Now this is quite ironic, because the young seem to have a more worldly awareness of the dangers of our society here, and he also seems to have a recognition from the young that our morality shapes our future. If we think about when Gerald says this line, he knows he's a liar, he knows he's a cheat, he knows he is entering a marriage which has not got solid foundations, and therefore he knows that this world is not going to be the guaranteed happiness that Mr. Burling is claiming it to be. Despite his tender years, he has a more wider worldly awareness and recognition of the reality of our life than Mr. Burling and the older generation do. Then I'll be looking back at Sheila here. This is when she's recognising the inspector's message, understands what he says, but she's powerless to stop her mother embarrassing herself. She's too marginalised from her family to be able to influence her parents and save her from this ridicule. Now the word begged here, and the fact it's been repeated, shows her helplessness, but it also shows that it's ingrained in her to still love and protect her mum, and this reverts back to what I was saying at the start, that no one's complaining about this marginalised quiet lifestyle that the young have to have. She still wants to protect her mum, she still wants to look after her, and she still wants to try and defend her. However, this marginalisation means she can't save her mother, or the world that she lives in. She's being ignored, so it doesn't matter how much she understands the inspector's message, no one's listening to her. Now there's a shift here from mummy at the start of the play to mother here. She's been confronted with her responsibilities and the truth in the society, which means she is now matured and she's now more prepared to endorse the inspector's message. She's not quite all the way there yet, but she's a damn sight closer now than she was at the start of the play. Now she's referring to her mummy as a mother suggests there's now a greater distance between Sheila and her mother's attitude. She doesn't associate herself with the older generation's mindset and their views on life. Now this is quite powerful because the inspector here has matured and prepared the children more in one night than the parents have done in their whole lifetime. So this shows the importance of the old in giving the young a chance to create a better world. They've got to be giving their young people a chance to make a difference and to look after the rest of society. Finally, I'll be ending with Eric. You killed them both, damn you, damn you. So here he lacks the power or the ability in himself to be the change that the inspector seeks. Even though he feels bad about it, he can't make a difference. Damn you shows he lacks the emotional balance, the control to deal with these problems facing him in society, so he's going to be useless. But also he says he's blaming his mother, so he cannot take the responsibility he needs to and instead blames his mother. And of course, taking responsibility is the first step to building a more socialist and more equal world where we all look after each other. And Priestley is showing that's simply not going to happen if the young aren't given the chance and support from the old. Now, the children here are a product of their upbringing. Their self-centred and capitalist upbringing, coupled with their marginalisation, the distance between the older generation and their children, means that Sheila and Eric are in no way prepared to deal with the reality of the world and make a difference in it. They're powerless to change it. Therefore, this cycle of suffering and pain is going to keep on going, and the inspector shows that through the metaphor fire, blood and anguish. The pain and suffering in society will continue whilst these young and old divisions remain. So there you have it, there's my essay that I would be saying on the young and old with the points I would make. Hope it was useful and the very best of luck to you.